اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا من أرجو لكل خير وآمن سخطه عند كل شر يا من يؤتي الكثير بالقليل يا من يؤتي من سأله يا من يؤتي من لم يسأله ومن لم يعرفه تهننا منه ورحمة آتني بمسألتي إياك جميع خير الدنيا وجميع خير الآخرة واصرف عني بمسألتي إياك جميع شر الدنيا وشر الآخرة فإنه غير منكوس ما أتيت وزدني من فضلك يا كريم يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا ذا النعماء والجود يا ذا المن والطول أرم شيبتي على النار برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك لله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة العين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن ابن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك لله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله يا سيد يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وسيء الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا ساداتي يا مواليني توجهت بكم أئمتي وأدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي. يا ساداتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله على الأعداء والله الظالمين من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين. اللهم صل.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Very quickly I'll go through Tafsir of Surah number 102, known as Surah Takakhur. Tuesday night program, usually we have a brief Tafsir, inshallah, 10-15 minutes, not more than that. We are on chapter number 102, which is named Takakhur. The translation of the verses that are recited says, rivalry and vainglory distracted you, alhaakumut takathur, hatta zurtumul maqabir, until you even visited the graves. No, indeed, soon you will know. Again, no, indeed, soon you will know. No, indeed, were you to know the certain knowledge, you would surely see the hell. Again, you will surely see it with the eye of certainty. Then that day you will be surely questioned concerning the blessings. Name of the surah comes from the very first ayah, Takakhur. It is also called Al-Hakum or At-Takathur or Al-Maqbara or Maqbara. There are 8 verses, 28 words and 120 letters in this surah. It is the chapter number 102 in the present order of surahs in Quran, and it's 16th in the chronological order of revelation. So the chronological order is different than the order that we have in the present Quran. Surah Fatiha is not the first surah that was revealed. Surah Baqarah is not the second surah that was revealed. Surah Al-Imran is not the third surah that was revealed. Rather, Surah Alaq, Iqra bismi rabbil, that was the first surah. Then Surah Wal Qalam, and so on and so forth. So 16th is Suratul Kawthar. What are the objectives of this surah? The main discussion in this surah is about 2 things. Number 1, reminder about the Day of Judgment and the warning in this regard. And number 2, admonishing those who bragged about their false pride, demanding more. Look at the contents and the topics that are mentioned, that as a whole a rebuke and as well as admonishment of people who boasted one another about one another based on an imaginary content. Something they would imagine, two people sitting, imagination, one will start bragging, I have this, I have this, I have this. The other one said, no, I have more, I have more, I have more. And you would feel this within our lives as well, that someone would come up and say, you won't believe what I saw. It was so big or small or huge or devastating. And the side will say, oh, that's nothing. I've seen worse. So what is it? Was the competition going on? This person is saying that I've seen this something which is tremendously, for example, I saw this huge tornado and it was ripping through the houses. Oh, so that's nothing. I've seen something bigger. People do that all the time. As if there's a competition going on, rivalry going on, that what you have done, what you have seen is nothing compared to what I have done and what I have seen. So therefore, it gives a warning about the issue of Qiyamah, resurrection, and the hellfire. And finally, it gives a warning about the questioning of the blessing. And inshallah, we'll get to what that blessing is when it says, ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. That on that day, we will definitely question you regarding that an-na'im. Time and place of revelation, Mufassirin have debated. They are unsure because content, some part of the surah referred to that as if it was revealed in Makkah, because the primary discussions in the surahs revealed in Makkah is about Qiyamah. So this talks about Qiyamah. But then the concept of rivalry depends on which rivalry they're referring to. One of the rivalries was regarding the Jews. So that has to be in the city of Medina. So both Shan and Nuzul are mentioned, that some believe that it was revealed in Medina, some suggest it was in Makkah. It was revealed between the very first revelation and the migration to Abyssinia. In that regard, it was revealed in Makkah. And also it was revealed after Suratul Kawthar. So this is the context of it. Atmosphere in which the surah was revealed. Surah Takakhur has been revealed in condemning Takathur, rivalry, boasting and bragging about what you have. Because of the large number of people and the desire to increase, some tribes and clans had reached a point where they went to the graves in addition to the living and counted their dead for boasting and takathur. So imagine the scenario. Two groups which are mentioned here in Majmu' al-Bayan. They say, well, this could be the Jews compared to the Muslims. That tells you that it was revealed in Medina. Some suggested that there were groups of Ansar who bragged with one another, like Aus and Khazraj. And some believe that it was revealed for the two tribes of Quraysh, Bani Abdul Manaf ibn Qusay, Bani Saham ibn Amr. So imagine these two groups. Now they started bragging. Oh, we have this with our tribe. We have this rich history. And they would mention we have this and we have that. And one would say, well, we come from, for example, Lucknow and we have this tradition over there. The other say we come from Hyderabad and we have this tradition over there. The others will say we come from another place. We have this tradition over there. There's this rivalry going on, sort of. One party is trying to prove that they are better than the other. Just take the language Urdu. And say, well, Urdu belongs to Lucknow, for example. The Hyderabadis would differ. Say, no, Urdu is from Hyderabad, for example. Or the people from other places would also argue the same thing. There's bragging going on between the two, trying to prove that what we have is original, what we have is the better one. Your version, for example, is somehow less than what we have. This led to furthering of the argument, where it reached the level where they started showing off their power. Back in the day, power was not displayed with how much wealth you possessed. Back in the day, power was displayed with the number of people you had in your clan. So for example, Bani Abdul Manaf, they said, we have, for example, 200 people in our clan. And then Bani Saham ibn Amr said, well, we have pretty much the same amount. And so this was the rivalry. When they counted, it came out to be equal, for example. They said, let's go dig the graves. They went to the graveyard, they started digging their dead. And then started counting. This is our dead, this is your dead, this is our deceased, this is your deceased. And to go ahead and look at the level where people lowered themselves. Some of the features of reciting this surah, it says, Ubay ibn Ka'ab narrates that whoever recited Surah Takakhur, Allah will not hold him accountable for worldly favors he bestowed upon him. So the favors that God has given to you in this world, the ni'mat that have been given to you, Allah will not ask you a question regarding that if you were to recite this surah. Sixth Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu said, whoever recited this surah in his obligatory prayers, for him the thawab of 100 martyrs will be given. Imam also said, the one who recites Takakhur before going to bed at night will be protected from sedition and the pressure of the grave. Fishar qabr se bachna hai, Surah Takakhur ki tilawat karo. So this was an overview. A specific reference to the surah is the time when the number of Muslims, was counted by the Makkans, who would continually congratulate themselves on outnumbering the Muslims, because Muslims were fewer. And the Quraysh and the Kuffar and the polytheists were larger in number. Each family wanted to appear more powerful than the other, thus it led to this. If you come back to the surah, it says, Sawfa ta'lamun, thumma kalla sawfa ta'lamun. So the Sawfa ta'lamun is repeated. When it's repeated, the first one refers to, you don't think that both of them refer to the same meaning. First, Sawfa ta'lamun refers to the severity and the wrath of the grave, and the second one refers to the severity and the wrath of Qiyamah. So not only this person suffers in the grave, meaning barzakh, but also suffers in Qiyamah. According to some tradition, the question about the favors in the final verse of this chapter is not referring towards the worldly goods. A person came to 8th Imam, Ali ibn Musa al-Rida alayhi salatu wassalam, and asked Imam, what is this? ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. Imam said, what do you think? He said, it is probably the rizq Allah has given to us. It is probably the food that Allah has bestowed upon us. It is probably the drinks Allah has given to us. Imam said, imagine if a hungry man came to your house, a beggar who was hungry, knocked on the door, said, if you have some food, please give me, I'm hungry, I'm dying of hunger. Would you not give it to him? He said, of course. We are that much human. We will not check the race and the religion and the ethnicity of this hungry man or woman. We'll go ahead and give. He said, after having given the food and the drink to this hungry man, will you then ask for compensation? Hey, pay up. This man was a beggar. He was hungry. He asked for food. You shared your food. Do you ask for compensation? Do you question him about paying? He said, no. He said, when you don't question about paying for the food and the drink that you provided to this hungry person, how do you expect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's Rahim and Kareem, and who has no limitation as far as his khazain is concerned, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be questioning you regarding the risk that He has given you? He said, then what is it, Imam? Imam said, ثُمَّ لَتَسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. An-Na'im refers to the muhabbat of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala. It means the favor of the wilayat and the leadership of the infallible Imams. That is the ni'mat that you will be questioned for. Did you live up to the expectations, and were you a follower? Quick analysis of the words Alhaakum. So it starts with what? Alhaakumut takathur. Alha, yulhi, ilha comes from the root word lahv. Lahv and la'ib, you've heard lahvun wa la'ibun. Lahv, something which occupies your mind with the small and worthless things which keep you from focusing on the real aims. That's why the ayat of Quran said, La tulhihim Rajalun la tulhihim tijaratun an dhikrillah. Tijarat, business, is a good thing. Prophet recommended doing business, right? There are riwayat, not jisko hum kehte hain gadi bhi riwayat or fabricated. No, real riwayat mentioning the merits of doing tijarat. But one of the elements, hidden elements of tijarat is what? It leads to yulhi, meaning ilha, meaning lahav, meaning occupying your mind, which keeps you away from focusing on the real things. Sometimes you can't even focus on the family. Sometimes you can't even focus on the real aim of this world. Sometimes you can't even focus on your ibadat. And you can't even focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. While tijarat is recommended, but there's a side to this tijarat, which is mentioned over here. Rajalun la tulhihim tijaratun an dhikrullah. There are people, the tijarat and the business does not make their minds occupied and refrain and keep them and prevent them from the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there are people who, while they do tijarat, their minds do not get occupied. That's why you hear in Surah Jumu'ah as well, right? When the discussion comes that Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha nudiya lis-salati min yawm al-jum'ah fas'aw ila dhikrillahi wa dharul bay'. Come to the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and leave your transactions. Meaning what? Transactions are something which might occupy your mind even from the dhikr of Allah, so that Allah has to spell it out for you. Leave that aside and come to the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The word takathur comes from kathrat in the meaning of demanding more, showing off to others with abundance in wealth and children. Zurtum comes from ziyarat. Maqabir is a plural for maqbara, which means a grave, and yaqeen means certainty. So there's this quick discussion on yaqeen. I'm sure many of you have heard it. There are 3 stages of yaqeen. First 2 types are mentioned in this surah, and then the 3rd type is mentioned in Surah Waqi'ah. Inna haza lahuwal haqqul yaqeen. So the first 2 that are mentioned in this surah are ilmul yaqeen wa aynul yaqeen. The 3rd one, haqqul yaqeen, is mentioned in Surah Waqi'ah. What's the difference between the 3? Ilmul yaqeen is the knowledge with certainty. When one hears and learns about something or some information is given with certainty. This is 33% knowledge. Ilmul yaqeen is 33%. You see smoke rising from somewhere. What is immediate thought? There's a fire. You can't be sure, but that's what comes to your mind. So that's 33% knowledge. Aynul yaqeen is visual information. That when you witness something, 66%, when you see the fire with your own eyes, you say, oh yeah, it is a fire. But it still is not 100% knowledge. And then it's haqqul yaqeen, the experience of certainty establishing its truth. For example, you put your hand in the fire, oh, it is a real fire. It's not a fake fire. No, it is a real fire. It's burning actually. So that's haqqul yaqeen. So these are the 3 levels of yaqeen that are mentioned: ilm, ayn, and haqq. Lessons that we learn: to defy, challenge those who showed off and were after vain glory because of worldly possessions, and not from the point of view of faith and taqwa. Quran sets the criteria for nobility to be only taqwa. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. This chapter warns about the severity of the punishment of the Day of Judgment. It warns about the questions that will be raised in regard to the favors on Judgment Day. Takathur is mentioned other places in Quran as well. For example, regarding children and wealth, it says takathurun fil amwale wal awlad in Surah Hadid. And rivalry for wealth and children. Also reminds people not to be distracted. La tulhikum amwalukum wa awladukum. Do not let your possessions and your children what? Kill you? No, distract you. Don't let that distract you. Amirul Mu'mineen, and I'll conclude with this, Imam al-Muttaqeen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, in Nahju Balagha, he has a view on this surah. Imam recited the verse, rivalry and vainglory distracted you until you visited the graves. And then he said, how distant from achievement is their aim? How neglectful are these visitors? And how difficult is the affair? They have not taken lessons from things which are full of lessons, but they took them from far off places. Do they boast on the dead bodies of their forefathers? Or do they regard the number of dead persons as a ground for feeling boastful? They want to revive the bodies of the deceased to become spiritless and movement that they have, those who have died. They are more entitled to be the source of lesson, those who are dead. You should learn something from the dead instead of bringing them out of the graves and bragging and boasting. Rather take ibrat, the one who's laying inside the grave. They are more suitable for being a source of humility than of honor. Those who are dead, they should be what? Source of humility for you, that this person is dead. I will die one day as well. Instead of taking what? Bragging about it, that this was so-and-so and it belongs to our clan, for example. Ibn Abil Hadid, a commentator of Nahj al-Balagha, said, in the last 50 years, I have recited this. So one of the biggest commentaries of Nahj al-Balagha is by Ibn Abil Hadid. So imagine if you're writing a commentary, you're going to read this khutbah many times because you're writing a commentary. He said, in the last 50 years, I have recited this sermon more than 1,000 times. So he was writing a tafsir, he was writing a commentary, so he recited over and over. He said, this sermon is so powerful that if I recited for all the scholars of Arabic language, they would fall in prostration, the same way they prostrate after reciting some verses from Quran. I swear that every time I recite this sermon, it surprises me, causes fear, affects my heart, causes shaking of my organs. Every time I learn something new from it, I've heard similar words from other scholars, but none had the same effect as the words of Imam Ali. Ibn Abil Hadid Mu'tazili, in his book Sharh Nahj al-Balagha, testifies the strength of this khutbah of Amirul Mu'mineen. So I only mentioned the tafsir of this surah. It is upon you to go ahead and search this khutbah in Nahj al-Balagha and then read it. Then you will understand the power that Ibn Abil Hadid is referring to in the words of Amirul Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli. So you found the reference, Ibn Abil Hadid, volume 11, page number 153. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability to refrain from bragging and boasting. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to stay focused on His dhikr and do not let the worldly things distract us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of our waiting Imam, make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. Quick announcement, inshallah, Thursday we will have the majlis to commemorate the shahadat of our seventh Imam, Imam Musa al-Kazim alayhi salatu wassalam, along with Sayyidul Batha, Hazrat Abu Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. There is also Isa alayhi salatu majlis. On Friday, inshallah, we will have that Thursday program is at 7 p.m. Friday, we will be celebrating Mab'ath and Miraj, Laylatul Miraj. There will be Amal on Friday night at 7 p.m. followed by a quick jashan. And then on Saturday, we will have the majlis for the Rawangi of Imam Hussain from Medina. All three programs will start at 7 p.m. inshallah. Mutawajjih ziyarat. Assalamu alaikum Rasulullah, Assalamu alaikum Nabiullah, Assalamu alaikum Habibullah, Assalamu alaikum Khiratullah, Assalamu alaikum Rahmatullah wa barakatuhu. Assalamu alaikum Abu Abdullah, Assalamu alaikum Rasulullah, Assalamu alaikum wa ala jaddika wa abika wa ala ummika wa akhika wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Assalamu alaikum Qarib al-Ghuraba. Assalamu alaikum Mu'in al-Du'afa wal-Fuqara. Assalamu alaikum Shams al-Shumus wa Anis al-Nufus ayyuha al-Madfun bi'ard al-Tus. Ali ibn Musa radha wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Assalamu alaikum Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. Assalamu alaikum Imam al-Insa wal Jannah. Assalamu alaikum Sharik al-Quran. Ajjal Allahu ta'ala farajak wa sahhal Allahu makhrajak wa dhuhurak. وجعلنا من أوانك وأنصارك ورحمة الله وبركاته.